Wednesday, March 18th, 2026. Welcome back to the Two Witnesses Live. I'm your host, Watchful, and things continue to escalate in the world, ushering us closer and closer to the return of Mashiach. Did I say it's March 18th, 2026? All right, well, we've still got stories that are continuing to explode between Iran and Israel. Still continuing to dominate every headline. We've got assassinations, missile strikes, oil prices through the roof, and massive domestic fallout here at home, plus updates on the Save America Act fight in the Senate. Some wild political revenge plotting from Democrats, and a few shocking side stories that you won't believe. Let's jump in. So our lead story tonight is escalating Iran war. Folks, this is now in its third week, and overnight things went from bad to catastrophic. Israel conducted a precision airstrike in Tehran, taking out Iran's intelligence minister Esmail Khatib. That's the third senior Iranian figure killed in just 24 hours. This follows the deaths of Ali Larijani and Basij, Commander Gholamariza Soleimani. Israel is systematically targeting the regime's top leadership. Iran hit back pretty hard with ballistic missile strikes on Israel. Reports of at least 2 were killed and injuries in areas like Ramat Gan near Tel Aviv. Iran's also launching attacks on Gulf targets, including Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain, and the UAE. The U.S. is deep in this now. We had originally thought, or as it was communicated, it reminds me so much of 2 weeks to slow the spread, but Trump initially was telling us, we'll be out, in no time at all, but we're continuing to go deeper into this, which those of us who have been paying attention to the signs and the prophecy, we knew this was going to happen. So it's no surprise there. The Pentagon deployed bunker buster bombs, these 5,000-pound deep penetrators against Iranian missile missile sites along the Strait of Hormuz. These strikes hit the South Pars gas field, which is a huge energy hub. Reports say that AI tools from Palantir are speeding up the U.S. targeting in the so-called kill chain. I mean, if you could, you've seen what AI can do in the public. You've seen how quick it is to generate stories, generate pictures, generate video. It's highly capable. And one thing that we've learned from a couple of experiments, myself personally here, is that there's a lot of public information that allows us to, glean information, on people, on events. I have, I think, 70 different sources of information that we can correlate to kind of mimic Palantir. So can you imagine what they're capable of doing with the tools that have the raw data in order to target individuals? Man, it's getting scary out there. So domestically, it's chaos. Moving on, let's see. Trump's National Counterterrorism Center Director Joe Kent just resigned in protest, saying the war is driven by pressure from Israel with no imminent threat to the U.S. Trump fired back publicly, slamming him. Trump also blasted NATO allies for not stepping up and even threatened media outlets with treason charges over their coverage. This morning, Director of Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard laid out very clearly why it is that we got involved in this war, the intelligence, the evidence. So whatever it is that Joe Kent is doing, all he did was exposed himself as someone with Trump derangement syndrome. He claimed to support Trump, but clearly he does not. So, better. It's the one less viper in the den, as it would be. Broader impacts. Oil prices are surging. Boo. Have you guys got those electric cars yet? Which is bad news for everyone at the pump. U.S. farmers are worried about fertilizer costs and shortages. I, myself, as a farmer, worry about the costs of feed. It's already expensive, and it's the hatching season. Like, we are in the springtime, and now is when you start to double and triple your flock. I know we've got probably a couple of dozen birds expected from the incubators coming out this week, next week. So the increase in costs for feed is definitely a concern. I feel it in our little operation. I can't imagine how the larger farmers feel. Hopefully, there is some relief for the farmers from the government. We'll see. The State Department ordered security reviews for all U.S. embassies worldwide. And get this, President Trump told NBC in an interview that Iran is desperate for a deal to end Operation Epic Fury. But apparently he's not biting yet. He said the terms aren't good enough. Even wilder, Trump questioned if Iran's new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, is even alive. Quote, I don't know if he's even alive. So far, nobody's been able to show him. He added, if he is alive, he should surrender for his country's sake. This is the dominant global story, no question. A couple of quick hits. Other military news, tragically, the Pentagon released the names of 6 airmen killed in last week's KC-135 crash in Iraq during combat ops. They are Major John Kleiner, Captain Ariana Savino, Tech Sergeant Ashley Pruitt, Captain Seth Koval, Captain Curtis Angst, and Tech Sergeant Tyler Simmons. CENTCOM says it was not due to hostile or even friendly fire. The investigation is ongoing. Our hearts and thoughts are with their families. Let's see. Regarding the U.S. Save America Act, there's some drama. Day 2 of the Senate's marathon debate on the Save America Act Trump's top priority. This bill requires photo ID to vote and proof of citizenship to register. Pretty straightforward election security. Republicans are dragging this out into an extended floor fight to spotlight Democratic opposition, but it needs 60 votes to beat the filibuster. And the GOP only has 53, so the passage odds are pretty low. Prediction markets put it around 10%. Democrats are fighting hard. Senator Patty Murray claimed it would make it tougher for students to vote, saying college IDs won't count and many tribal IDs might not either. But come on, let's be real. Out-of-state students aren't residents of their college state. Duh. They vote absentee from home or they change their residency properly. That's always been the rule. Foreign students, they have no right to vote in U.S. elections just because they're on campus. Murray's basically admitting the bill would block illegitimate voting, and that's truly what's behind their opposition. They're framing it as disenfranchisement. Most Americans see this as preventing fraud, not suppressing votes. Democrats seem more worried about closing loopholes than helping real citizens. Democrats plotting revenge. Axios reports they're already planning retaliation. If they win big in 2026 midterms, why wouldn't they? They're talking lawfare investigations, probes against companies, colleges, and law firms that cooperated with Trump. We saw that in the Biden administration, so they're just talking Biden 2.0. Those of us who watch Prophecy know that we're probably not going to get there. There's going to be another administration controlling the world, very likely, after this administration. I mean, I guess it could be the Democrats, the beast from the land. Let's see. Senators Adam Schiff, Sheldon Whitehouse, and Richard Blumenthal are involved in plotting. This echoes Susan Rice's warning last month. The no, forgive, and forget. Anyone who sided with Trump will be held accountable. Chilling stuff. I don't understand why they allow these people to continue to have freedom when clearly many of them are anti-America, taking arguably treasonous action against our country. Let's see. A bodyguard for Representative Jasmine Crockett was killed in a Dallas SWAT standoff. Turns out that his real name was Diamond Mozair Robinson. He was using an alias, impersonating law enforcement, even claiming to be a Capitol Police detective. How he got that gig protecting a Congress member, still unanswered. And apparently Crockett's office isn't talking. Maybe one of the videos we'll watch is about the invasion in America. I don't know. We'll see. I've got 3 or 4 different videos. I haven't decided on which one we'll cover tonight. Maybe we'll cover the one. I was thinking about covering Passover, since Passover's tomorrow. So maybe we'll start looking at invasion stuff next week. Let's see. And Judge James Boasberg, the same one who blocked Trump's moves before, these judges, shut down grand jury subpoenas in the criminal probe of Fed Chairman Jerome Powell, of course, calling it political. The U.S. Attorney Janine Pirro fired back. This neuters the grand jury's ability to investigate crime. It's wrong and without legal authority. There is an appeal coming. So that's pretty much our roundup for the news tonight before we get into our daily torment reports. You've got the Iran war escalating. That's front and center. We have huge risks to energy security and the economy. The SAVE Act is heating up, and the political revenge games are already in motion. So let's move on to our daily torment report.
Trials faced, through testing days, you've kept my word, walked in my ways. Though strength was small, you held your ground. The door I've opened cannot be bound. They turned away, they closed their eyes, but I have written what none denies. Through fleeting fear and fleeting shame, you stood for truth, upheld my name. Hold fast, your crown is sure. The door I've opened will stand secure. A pillar raised in the temple of my God, forever sealed, forever strong. The strength you've shown, the words you've kept, through every storm, through tears you wept. Though they may mock, though they may strive, the truth you carry keeps hope alive. The key I hold, no one can take. The promise stands for those awake. The name I'll write, a prize divine. Forever yours, forever mine. Hold fast, your crown is sure. The door I've opened will stand secure. A pillar raised in the temple of my
just reading the comments here. Lion Dog says that there's breaking news. Iran orders an evacuation. I was looking into this. It looks like about 4 hours ago. We can have a look at this before we get into our daily torment report to see what's going on. If I can get the window to open.
And for more, I want to bring in former U.S. Army Commander, retired Lieutenant General Daniel Karbler. General, thank you so much for your time today. And listen, I'm curious, in your estimation, how much of an escalation is it for Iran to issue evacuation orders around energy assets in neighboring Gulf countries?
Yeah, anytime that you're asking your civilian or your workforce to evacuate, obviously you're concerned about attacks. You're concerned about your ability to protect yourself. So it's something that has to be taken very seriously. This whole escalation of striking different energy fields, whether it's in Iran or striking back at our Gulf partners, is something that's going to be figured into the calculus of now, what do we defend? What do we attack? I think Israel striking at oil fields might have been an action that wasn't fully coordinated with the U.S. efforts. And so right now we're going to have to respond to that and again, see how it splits out in terms of what we're going to defend, what we're able to defend, and what our Gulf partners are able to defend.
Well, and also bigger picture here, looking that we're now in the third week of this conflict, what are some adjustments that our military has had to make?
Yeah, certainly we've got to, whether you're on the defensive side, you're looking at your interceptor use, those Patriots and THAADs, we don't have an infinite amount of them. So now how you employ them against what threats, we've had to make adjustments to make sure that we have the right capabilities to counter drones that are coming in. You've heard the discussion throughout the past several weeks that we don't want to spend, $4 million interceptors to intercept $20,000 drones coming in. And then on the offensive side, we've had to take a look at the different target lists. The initial targeting was to get rid of Iranian military capabilities, Iranian Navy. Now it's, hey, the Strait of Hormuz has got to be opened up. So let's get after the Iranian mine lane ships. Also, you saw some of the news reports earlier today about, huge bombing efforts right along the Iranian coast, close to the Strait of Hormuz, to try to keep the Strait of Hormuz open. So you'll see continued advances of our targeting to continue on with helping us to meet our strategy.
Okay. Retired Lieutenant.
Yeah, so, it doesn't sound like anything. Is that what you were referring to, Lion Dog? So that's the only thing I could find about an evacuation order, and it's around neighboring energy assets due to the bombing of the oil refinery. So I don't know what to make of that right now. I guess we'll keep our eye on it and see. This is definitely directly related to us here in the United States because this is going to affect oil prices, and this could be part of that great tribulation to where the tribulation part is the pressure. We're continuing to think like, what can we do to prepare? It's such a I think I mentioned this earlier. It's such a COVID feeling. Like, it feels like that we're right before some big spiritual movement. And, I think we're going to buy another freezer, and fill it up with some food or something like that. We'll see how things go just to lock in prices because, we're not talking about like a complete and total end to oil. We're just talking about much higher prices for oil. And it kind of happened during COVID where prices went through the roof, but still life moved on. We just paid the prices. So we'll see. I don't know. Back over here to Donald Trump. He's got a bunch of stuff posted today, a couple of videos. So we'll see what he's got going on here.
Sometimes you look at the polling data and there are numbers that just jump off the screen at you. And this is one of those. Because just take a look here. MAGA GOP view of Trump. Approve 100%. 100%. If you are a member of MAGA and the GOP, you approve of Donald John Trump. 0% say that they disapprove. You don't have to be a mathematical genius to know you can't go higher than 100%. He is the 1972 Miami Dolphins.
Is that true? Is that legitimately 100% approval? This guy's polls are hilarious. I love them. All right, what is this? Whoa! We gotta turn off the volume. These volumes keep biting me in the butt with copyright stuff. I've gotten very good at disputing copyright claims on our videos, because every little freaking video that we play that's got any kind of music, even if it's background music in it, good Lord. You know, I actually got the opportunity to watch that Melania film. It was better than I expected. It was tantamount to basically like the day in the life of Melania, but it was set right before the election. Man, and who knew the amount of effort that woman puts into, you know, the attire that they wear, the tape, the way everything. I mean, she like really does. She works her butt off to make sure that things look really nice. That was basically what the video was. The amount of effort she puts in to support her husband. It was really sweet. It's so interesting to be able to get a glimpse into their lives, especially when you make all of these assumptions about, you know, like obviously they're super rich, super rich. But it's very interesting to get a glimpse into people's lives, especially, you know, where they sacrifice everything they have. Like it's like it was interesting watching the video, because just seeing the luxury that they live within. And I mean, because like her office is you know, at the top of a freaking skyscraper, and she has like dedicated, you know, tailors working on custom clothes that get worn every single day. And you realize that like that Trump is sacrificing everything in order to do what he feels is right. So it's just like it's so interesting to I don't know if that's if you're into that kind of thing, if you're into kind of seeing the way they live, I recommend it. It was better than I expected. It's on Amazon Prime right now. What is this? Oh, we got to turn sound back on.
Athlete, and so my son was a really world-class athlete, and January 17th of 2020, which mind you was an election year, he had a really serious brain injury. Woke up 26 hours later, and he's a different kid. We almost lost him. And the president found out about it, and he gave me a call immediately, and the president offered to send his plane, his personal plane. This is the president of the United States. We get there, and he called almost every day for 2 weeks checking on Jim. And then he says, I'm going to come see him. And now this is the middle of the election. This is Bakersfield, California. Really not an area he's got to go campaign. And his team came to him twice and said, sir, we got to go. We got to go. On the third time they came over to him, he looked at him and he says, hey, I guarantee you that plane won't leave without me.
You know, what's interesting about this story is after watching the movie Melania, just seeing how every minute of their day is scheduled and they're just constantly going from one thing to the next. For them to be able to take time and deviate from that, it's like a massive undertaking, and yet they still do it. That really, to me, it's just like mind-boggling. Like, I need to seriously watching that video, I'm like, man, I seriously need to raise my standards. Like, I'm not doing enough.
For the next 15 minutes, he did nothing but love on my son.
Mm.
That one incident jogged his memory. And from then on, he started retaining things. And Jim's attitude went from this, you know, we're going to get through it, to this, I'm going to get through it. And every week, if not most days, the president would call and ask how he could help. Ask how's his buddy doing? How's Jim doing? He didn't do it for publicity. He didn't do it for any show. He was running in one of the toughest elections he had been in, and the guy was still that concerned about my son. Dang it, I hate getting emotional. See, if I talk about my kids, I get emotional. Other than that, you can't make me cry. But my kids can make me
That's
emotional.
actually a good thing.
Yeah. So anyways, he grabbed my son, and he said, do you know why I love your dad? Do you know why I love your dad? Chrissy tells the story better than I do. And he goes, no, sir. He goes, because he loves you. Because of you. Because of you. Man, he didn't do it for any other reason. I mean, here's the president of the United States, and he did it just because he cared. And so when you want to say why he's a friend, yeah, we were acquaintances before that. We've been friends ever since.
The American people need to hear that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Blumenthal.
You know, and I stand as a witness the same thing for Donald Trump. I've watched him and followed him my entire life. My earliest memories of him are doing things like that went underreported. You know, it's other people testifying to the love and care he has for his fellow man. That's been a testament to his life for as long as I've known Donald Trump. It's no wonder that the devil wants to smear and lie about him and attack him. My personal experience, I've never met the man. I've just paid attention to his career and his life my entire life. You know, anything, you know, I've heard quite a bit about him. You know, I've heard about these things. So really cool seeing this stuff. Alrighty. 10 hours ago, Border Patrol Union, NBPC, the National Border Patrol Council, fully supports and endorses Senator Mark Wayne Mullen to be our next Secretary of Department of Homeland Security. We look forward to working with him to continue protecting our great nation under the tremendously successful leadership of POTUS, Donald J. Trump, and his administration. This is a letter confirming the same thing, I believe. So let's see. Chairman, ranking members, national security poll. Yep, same thing. That was just the summary that we read. Posting a bunch of wins again. I hope this keeps us in the majority. I don't know if it will. I wonder when they're going to report that. As far as I know, there hasn't been a change of power. Lion says Iran strikes Qatar. Surprise, surprise. Let's see, Donald Trump 11 hours ago says, I wonder what would happen if we finished off what's left of the Iranian terror state and let the countries that use it, we don't be responsible for the so-called strait. That would get some of our non-responsive allies in gear and fast. Oh, boy, oh, boy. Let's see. For all the fake news out there, it's called the Save America Act, not the Save Act. Nobody knows what the Save Act means. When is too late Powell lowering interest rates? Whoops. Let's see. For all the fake news. Okay. Remember, for all these absolute fools out there, Iran is considered by everyone to be the #1 state sponsor of terror. We are rapidly putting them out of business. Yeah, there's zero doubt in my mind that there was legal and spiritual justification for what both Israel and the United States did to Iran and continue to do. I do believe it's part of prophecy, and I do believe that it's part of judgment coming upon them that will ultimately glorify God and his name. So that's where I stand with all of this. The Democrats' purposeful DHS shutdown is causing chaos at the airports. You know, Trump is the only one I'm hearing actually talk about this. These lunatics are being totally unreasonable in their radical left asks. They are fully to blame and must pay a big price for the good of our country in the midterm elections. Make America great again. Yeah, they're just pushing themselves out of a job. True that. Statehood president. Uh-oh. Is this in regards to Cuba? Statehood President Donald J. Trump? I expect to see something about Cuba. Real Donald Trump. So from Joe Kent, we should not sit and wait for the next attack. Wipe Iran's ballistic capability out and get our troops out of Iraq. They are only targets now. No USWIA KIA is a tribute to the professionalism of our military and intel professionals, not Iranian restraint. Fair enough. I think that's everything from Donald Trump this week. So before we move on to Elon Musk, I want to go look over at Bibi Netanyahu's post because there's a lot of people who think he's either in a coma or think he's dead. And I saw a video of him talking. They're saying that it was AI. I didn't think it was, but you never know. I mean, freaking AI is getting so amazingly good. Let's see what we can find on his posts here. We're watching from above. There you go. So this was posted. What was that, yesterday? Is this AI? You got? Is that what they're saying?
City Square. I'm here with Israel's defense minister, our chief of staff, the head of the Mossad, the chief of Air Force, our senior commanders. In the past 24 hours, we knocked out 2 of the terrorist chieftains, the top terrorist chieftains of this tyranny. Our aircraft are hitting the terror operatives on the ground, in the crossroads, in the city squares. This is meant to enable the brave people of Iran to celebrate the Festival of Fire. So celebrate and Happy Nowruz. We're watching from above. I'm here.
Do you guys think that's AI? That doesn't look like AI to me. It's getting so close to reality, but still, it's still just not perfect enough that sometimes you can find tells, like with different reactions of people around them. Like, this guy's eyes are closed over here. This guy's not too happy.
With Israel's defense minister, our chief of staff, the head of the Mossad, the chief of Air Force.
Got a microphone kind of dropping down here.
In the past 24 hours, we knocked out 2 of the terrorist chieftains, the top.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I
terrorist chieftains of this.
I think it's just the fog of war. This seems legit to me. I mean, it could be AI, but let's see. This is meant to enable the brave people of Iran to celebrate fire. Posted yesterday. I mean, like in this video, he's talking about stuff that happened today and yesterday. So they would have had to generate that really quick and make sure that it didn't look like AI. Which, it's perfectly capable of. I mean, like, it's not beyond capabilities now. This was posted yesterday.
חיסלנו את עלי לריג'ני. עלי לריג'ני זה הבוס של משמרות המהפכה, שזה חבורת הגנגסטרים שמנהלת בפועל את איראן.
Oh no, he's got 6 fingers.
אנחנו חיסלנו לצידו גם את מפקד הבסיס. זה העוזרים של הגנגסטרים, שהם מפיצים טרור ברחובות טהרן וערים אחרות של איראן נגד האוכלוסייה. גם שם אנחנו פועלים מהאוויר עם מטוסים של חיל האוויר, עם כטב"מים וגם...
Yeah. I don't know. The dude seems alive and well. I'm going to chalk that one up to propaganda. And there's some pretty big channels out there who are pushing this idea that he's in a coma. I can tell you, I'm losing a lot of respect for, a lot of YouTubers who I've typically found to be reputable. God, it is. I'm telling you, it's just like COVID 2.0. Like, I saw people's behavior change that were my mentors. I had specifically a gentleman who was my mentor growing up during COVID. He just turned evil, and the dude's a pastor I admired, and he just flat out turned evil, went super crazy on Trump derangement syndrome. It seems as though it's almost like there's a spiritual movement. Like in the beginning of COVID, it was almost like the spirits were unleashed and there was this spiritual movement, and it's kind of that same sensation to where it's just like this ramping up of the spiritual movement where you're starting to see these people that are susceptible to those influences that are just going batshit crazy. And it's very interesting to watch. I'll tell you that. All right, moving on to Elon Musk and what he's doing. I'm entirely fed up with tolerating the intolerable. I love that he loves puzzles and word games. All right, in response to Jason, it would be more efficient to create a list of partners who haven't sued OpenAI at this point. It's almost like they can't be trusted. Sarcasm. I am yes, you are no. The past was erased. The erasure was forgotten. The lie became the truth. Statues of old white men, like the Duke of Wellington and Admiral Lord Nelson, could be destroyed because they may be offensive to diverse modern public, Welsh government advises. Yeah. Yep. COVID 2.0. This is an illegal war on Mordor. Wait, what a minute. Wait, what? What? We're told that Sauron possesses an existential threat, yet somehow this involves sending hobbits 1,500 miles to a volcano. Regime change in Mordor will only create a power vacuum filled by worse orcs. Sauron is bad, sure, but is he March to Mount Doom bad? Meanwhile, Second Breakfast is underfunded. Tell me again how this puts the Shire first. I love these analogies, even if they're stupid. Oh, Nick Shirley's back on the scene with his shenanigans. I have not had a chance to watch this. It keeps coming up in my feed. Here's the full 40 minutes of my crew and I exposing California fraud. Minnesota was big, but California is even bigger. We uncovered over 170 million in fraud as these fraudsters live in luxury with no consequences. Like it and share it. Stop the fraud. Yeah, I'll be watching that one tonight. We watched a little bit of it.
This is the sound of hospice money. Could you just answer the question, what's the need for 1,000% increase in hospice care here inside of LA? Do you have the paperwork to enroll a little boy by the name of Joey?
You don't know what's going on.
Well, it says there's 14 children enrolled here on the state of California. That there is $6,000 per beneficiary. Can you give us any explanation? Where can we open a hospice at? Give the Maybach just like you.
California may have the largest amount of fraud in the country, as California is the state with the highest taxes and collects more money than any other state in America. It is filled with fraud. California's version of Medicaid, called Medi-Cal, has more than doubled since 2022 from $108 billion to a proposed $222 billion in 2026. Their population, however, has not grown exponentially. However, their spending has. There has been a 1,000% increase in hospice care in the Los Angeles County. In fact, 1 out of every $10 of home health care in America is spent in Los Angeles. On top of that, their government-funded daycare programs are filled with violations. While they continue to give money to these fraudsters, it is estimated that the fraud in California could be in the hundreds of billions of dollars. In this video, we'll be going face to face with these fraudsters, confronting them as they defraud the American taxpayer out of millions and billions of dollars as they live their lives in luxury, driving around luxurious cars that cost more than $100,000 that you actually paid for. Let's start first by going to these.
Cool. That looks exciting. I want to watch it. All right, from Balaji, Hollywood is over. It's all internet now. The internet takeover of entertainment. Oh, man, one of my favorite shows of all time is Firefly. I don't know if you guys have seen it. If you haven't, it's a space cowboy drama that was canceled way, way, way before it should have been canceled. It has Nathan Fillion, Alan Tudyk, Morena Baccarin, some really funny actors in it. Some of my favorite actors. And they just announced that they're getting the crew back together and they're doing an animated series. I honestly don't think it's going to succeed. I think that they would be better to embrace AI. The reason they're doing an animated series is because they're all busy. Nathan Fillion is doing The Rookie. Morena Baccarin is doing some sheriff movie. Alan Tudyk is doing what Alan Tudyk does. He's does a lot of voice acting for Disney and stuff. But he's also doing Resident Alien. That's a pretty good show. But they are the idea behind doing the animated series is because they want to bring back Firefly because it was such a good story. And I think I've talked about this before too. Like, by the end of the year, it would not surprise me if I can't put in a prompt and generate a full episode of Firefly that picks up where they left off with the story. I think that they should probably invest their time and talents in that rather than trying to do an animated series, because they're planning the animated series to like be released in 3 years, considering normal production to where normal tools, not taking into account what's available today. But either way, it's super exciting. I'm so happy about that. I don't know if anybody else here is a big Firefly fan, but man, really good storytelling. Very much a hero and villain with scary moments in it, even which you don't get a lot of that from TV. But man, anyway. Hollywood is cooked, though. That's true. AI is taking over Hollywood. From Joey Manarino, Berlin has just imposed insane immigration quotas on the judiciary system. Now 40% of candidates for judges and prosecutors must have an immigrant origin. Is that so they can just let all the migrant criminals off easily without any repercussions at all? That's insane. That's insanity. Total insanity. Man, it almost makes me want to watch that video. I really think we should cover Passover stuff before Passover, it's more timely. But man, yeah, probably the very first thing that we're going to probably start tackling next week is the invasion of, the potential impacts that we can expect from the Great Tribulation, just as a preparatory endeavor, endeavor to study the potential, what more can we do? You know what I mean? Like, what more can we expect? What more can we do? Because watchmen watch, watchers watch. And what man who doesn't intend to build a tower doesn't first sit down and count the costs? So there's a lot of biblical principles for why you should, watch for things, plan, and pay attention. So I think it's prudent that we do. Anyway. Getting closer to launch. Let's see. Media said Tesla would fail. Today, Tesla is worth $1.25 trillion. The UK continues its transition into something between a gulag and a caliphate. That's not so far from the truth. Interesting that Elon reposted that. Yeah. Yep. And that was supposed to be, I constantly find myself evaluating the effect of the new Atlantic Charter on the U.S. And I really, every time Elon posts this kind of stuff, I think like that was the intention in the United States. Like that was the purpose of the rider on the black horse, was to continue to transition these two beasts, these two governments, the U.S. and the U.K., into something like a gulag or a caliphate. They may have succeeded. I mean, like, Trump might just be a temporary impediment. You know what I mean? All right, what's this?
Is there evidence that Reid Hoffman went to the island?
Yes, I believe so. Yes. I believe he's admitted that he went to the island.
Is there evidence that Bill Clinton has gone to the island?
I'm not aware of that.
Is there evidence that Bill Gates has gone to the island?
I don't know that there's evidence that Gates went to the island.
Or the ranch.
Or the ranch, but look, there are records of that in the files, and so if the FBI has evidence of Bill Gates or Reid Hoffman going to the ranch or the island, it's available to the American people now. It's not something that anybody is keeping.
And is there documentation that shows underage women were also present at the island?
At the same time as any of those guys? Yeah. Not that I'm aware of.
Would you say that they're completely absolved of any wrongdoing and that DOJ has closed the case on this matter?
No, I'm not. No. Listen, like when it comes to the trafficking of underage,
dude, what's up with his socks?
There's no statute of limitations, so this case is never closed. If there's evidence that we learn of that we can act on, we will act on it immediately, like we do every single day. So no, it's not closed.
All right. I don't know if I trust him just based on his socks. From Adam Loise, ex-meetup, my friend is using Grok. Okay, we're going to read this. My friend is using Grok for trading. He says it is doing an amazing job. I can only imagine. You know what? I keep hearing this, and I keep hearing about people making boatloads of money. I've got to try this. I have pretty good experience with trading. And a pretty good experience with AI and building stuff. Surely I can be able to connect the two and see if we can't raise some serious money. Maybe we can raise enough money to, like, I don't know, expand the show into like a full-blown studio so that we can have like guests here, do like a Joe Rogan experience, but with Watchful. That'd be cool. If anybody wants to invest in the show to something like that, to a degree of like that, to turn this into more of like a network type show, something tantamount to a more professionally produced show where we could like hire a producer, rent a studio, bring in guests to do that kind of thing, I'd be for that. I'd do that if we could find an investor. If anybody knows an investor who wants to build a show like that, send me an email to Witnesses Live, and we'll talk. Could be interesting. I mean, it might help the show get more reach. Do it a little bit more professional. Have somebody in here pushing buttons more than just me trying to figure out how to juggle it all. Maximum penalty for illegal entry. Pakistan 10 years and a fine. Saudi Arabia 15 years. Iran 25 years in prison. Afghanistan execution. Yemen prison and death penalty. Sudan prison. Great Britain free housing, healthcare, and education. Education, food, phone, cash, all funded by the taxpayer. I'd argue that it was the same for the United States under the Biden administration. Interesting comparison. Amish kid has an interesting perspective on homelessness. Why don't you just build a house? Yeah, so if you've spent any time with the homeless, it's a mental illness and addiction issue. Homelessness isn't actually the problem. It's not that these people are accidentally on the street and they're incapable. Most of the people that remain on the street that are not being assisted are people who have mental health problems, meaning they are incapable of helping themselves. They need outside assistance. And the same goes for those who are addicted to drugs. The very, 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 very few minority are there by circumstance. I talked to some homeless people. I remember there was one couple that I spoke to that their car broke down, and while they were inside trying to buy supplies, somebody stole their car, and it had everything in it, and they didn't have a lot of family or friends that they could contact. So that's how they ended up homeless. But through ingenuity and, continuing to work, they were working. Like when I met them, they were applying for jobs. So there are circumstances like that where people are living on the streets, and the ones that are capable can work themselves out of it. But the problem is those who have that are mentally incapacitated, and those who are addicted to something that makes them mentally incapacitated. That is where the problem is. And I believe it's one of the reasons, because Donald Trump had a pretty good plan for solving the homeless problem, and I haven't seen him do anything towards that plan yet. Granted, there's a lot of stuff that he's been working on in the meantime, so it's not for a lack of action on his part. I think he's actually taking a better approach in that if you can eliminate drugs, I mean, like it's so interesting with the way they've attacked him and the roadblocks they've put in front of him. It's almost as though they've pushed him into, okay, as a president, he's using the nuclear options, which are actually better options. So it's just like, oh, there's a drug problem. We've been trying to, give states money to actually deal with this drug problem. They're not doing it. People are, defrauding the system and taking the money for themselves. Well, I guess we're just going to have to eliminate drugs in the world. Let's go after every single drug lord, everybody exporting drugs and bringing drugs into the country, which arguably is a better solution, because those addicted to drugs, if they can't actually get the drugs, that's kind of a better situation. Like maybe stop the unrestrained flood of drugs coming into the country. As far as the mental health issues and the withdrawals and they still do get drugs. So he hasn't. I mean, he's put a massive dent in the problem. In that, from this is actually a couple of months old at this point, to where deaths from fentanyl went from. So what was the statistic? It was 10 a day to less than 10 a week, I think it was. So it was a massive drop, and that has continued to drop. So, I mean, he's still tackling the, part of the underlying cause of homelessness. but there's still a lot left to do. And there's not enough people like Kevin Dahlgren who are going out and just, finding out how they can help, number one. So there's a couple of, maybe, you know what? I think I'm going to build a website. This is what we're going to do. Because I've got tools that I've been building. I've got the timeline tool, which I'm about ready to make it public. I've got the information the information tool with all the different public feeds so that we can see information firsthand that's happening around the world. I think what I'll do is I'll build a website to where we can access all these resources, and maybe I'll contact Kevin Dahlgren and see if we can't get a starter guide for what people can do to actually help those who are on the street, not by choice, those who are mentally ill. And what he does is he just goes around and visits them almost like a neighborhood. And he knows they know who he is. He goes around. He does provide some assets and resources, make sure that they've got food and food stamps and stuff like that. They know where the shelter is, how to get into the shelter, stuff like that. That's how he's helping. And if you have a desire to do that kind of thing, it's amazingly fulfilling. Go do it on a weekend. If you're out and about and you see somebody, if you're better prepared to actually help them. A lot of people think that if you just give them money, you're helping them. Don't do that. That's the worst possible thing you can do. Care packages are stupid too, because it's not like they don't have a lack of resources. A lot of these states make $1 million per homeless person on the street. So there's assets and resources that they have available. A lot of it ends up as trash. I made this mistake in that we tried putting together care packages thinking that, they didn't have access to toothbrushes and deodorant and stuff like that. We're like, oh, we're helping out. And then we found out, no, they have access to all that stuff. Everything you give them just ends up in the garbage, just ends up laid out on the street, because they're just not in their right mind to be able to actually use it. Most of them. That's not all of them. There are some of them that do appreciate it. But you find that out by actually talking to them and learning them. It's it should be something that, you plan to do if that's something that you enjoy. And it goes a long way, because that's one of the things that Yeshua said, when he comes back and when he starts to get to put together the logistics of the kingdom of God, is he's going to separate the goats from the sheep. And one of the metrics that he's separating is, how did you treat your fellow man? How did you treat those who didn't need help? How did you treat those who needed help? Those who were hungry, those who were naked, those who were in prison, your neighbor. How did you treat those people? So, so I'll work on that this weekend. Yeah, that's what I'll do this weekend. I'll get all that stuff set up, and then we can start making some progress in that regards towards being helpful. Let's see. Moving on. So, no, don't just build a house like the Amish. It's a funny meme. I get the meme. An Amish kid has an interesting perspective on homelessness. Why don't they just build a house? Because they are good at building, that's for sure. I almost wonder how the Amish are going to fare out in the end times. Like, are the Amish the elite? Wouldn't that be funny? Like the 144,000, or because it's just like, if you, I don't know, I've got quite a bit of experience with the Amish, but I've also seen some TV shows that have called my experience into question. Apparently some Amish communities are run like gangs. That wasn't my experience growing up. So my experience growing up is the Amish were very tight-knit family communities that did a lot to contribute to the communities around them. It wasn't that they were afraid of technology or afraid of any kind of advancements. It's that they didn't want anything to take away from serving God and serving their neighbor as themselves. So it's like they're almost like the stellar example of being Christ-like. Where I would say they fail is they're kind of closed off in their communities, and even my church growing up, very closed off. A lot of these communities get very closed off. They're not so much in reaching out and helping other people. But I don't know. Weird tangent. Have you guys seen the Amish shows about like the gangs and stuff like that? That I don't know if that was just drama and made up stuff or if it was legitimate, but it really kind of put some doubt in my mind about some of these Amish communities being like pretty bad. But I often wonder that, because if living within your means, owning everything you have, making the most out of what the earth provides, like stewarding God's creation to the max. It's like, are they the elite? Are we the idiots? Interesting thought. Yeah. Astronomers have discovered 11 new moons of Saturn. Most of them are small rocky bodies up to 5 kilometers in diameter. They move in retrograde orbits, meaning they rotate in the opposite direction to Saturn's rotation around its axis. Okay. One day we shall sail through the moon belts of Saturn. I do believe that. Whether it's by ship or some new celestial body, that is yet to be disclosed. From Clay Travis, we hit a 125-year low for murder in the United States last year. Cool. Data from before 1900 isn't great, so it's impossible. So it's possible we hit the lowest murder rate in the U.S. history last year. Check out this graphic. Great news often gets limited attention. Thank you, President Trump. Cool. Why do you think that is? When you take criminals off the street, crime goes down. Surprise, surprise. Amid all the turmoil in the world, one decidedly positive trend stands out. Crime in the U.S. is way down. The homicide rate fell last year to at least something. From Senator Rand Paul, another day, another $22 billion out the window. Yeah, indeed. From the Babylon Bee, Republicans announced plan to keep doing opposite of what everyone voted for them to do. Gotta love the Babylon Bee. What's up with this dude? Breaking. Oregon high school principal Jeremy Williams, who was placed on leave for celebrating the assassination of Charlie Kirk, has been sentenced to 5 years in prison over possession of child pornography. Well, good. Good for him. Another one bites the dust. Let's see. Mark asks, could the recent fireball be the debris of 3i Atlas? No, 3i Atlas, last I heard, was by Jupiter. There was a comet that is getting close to the sun, but I don't think that would cause any debris to fall in our atmosphere. It was either satellites or rockets or something like that. I think I actually have a video to watch from Stefan. Not that one. Is it this one? No, maybe it's over here. I had one from him talking about the meteorites hit, or the comet that was going to hit the Earth. Apparently I lost it. If we want to watch it, I'll go dig it up while we're watching one of these other videos. Anyway, good thing that pervert's in jail. Doge designer, civilization, financial crisis, global warming. Population collapse is the biggest threat to civilization. Population collapse. Haha. Oh, I see. Yeah, funny memes. All right, what do we got from Joe?
But if it wasn't for you buying that and changing Twitter, I don't think we would be where we're at right now. I think it was a pivotal moment. I think historically, when people look back on it, it's going to be a pivotal moment in this very bizarre fight for the freedom of information.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at the time I said, I think, like, look, I think this is, existential to the United States. It's existential to democracy, because if you don't have freedom of speech, you don't have democracy. Okay, because if you don't have freedom of speech, people cannot make an informed vote. If they're just being fed propaganda, and there's no freedom of speech, democracy is an illusion. So freedom of speech is the bedrock of democracy. That's why freedom of speech is the First Amendment. Once you lose freedom of speech, you lose democracy. Game over. That's why I bought Twitter.
And you need ID in elections or they're fake. Yes, indeed. Libs of TikTok.
Got, for example, extremist-related murders in the United States. So over the last 25 years, the majority of them have been committed by people who self-identified or authorities have identified as quote-unquote, let's say, right-wing extremists.
Oh, whatever.
Because again, if I look at the actual violent events, they're mostly perpetrated by them.
And by right-wing extremists, do you mean the labels that were placed on them after we discovered that they were all involved in some transgender, forum where they talk about how they hate America and hate Trump, and then later on they put on a MAGA right before they went to go shoot people because it's nothing but a stupid murderous psyop that they're trying to pin on the right wing.
On the other hand, that's not the entirety of the threats.
Sure.
So whether it's...
I don't even know if we need to watch it. He says he's such a liar. I agree. Moving on. Kyle Becker, America is done with the trust me bro system of voting. Pass voter ID like 175 other nations on Earth and STFU. Shut the F up. Teach a man to fish and he'll eat for life. Give him someone else's fish and he'll vote for you. All right, we're getting into yesterday's post, but there's still a couple of them here. Let's see. Winning and Oscar has become an embarrassment. Yeah, who even cares? See, we don't live in a democracy if we don't have integrity in our elections. Very true. From Matt Roller. 50 years ago, if you wanted to see a picture of a raccoon, you either had to already have it or drive to a library, and raccoon in a funny hat, forget about it. That's true. I remember those days. The days of having to go somewhere to get information. The effective altruist movement has a structural problem when it comes to conservative America. Its donor class is all Bay Area progressives. Its policy agenda, which calls for sweeping AI regulations and content governance, reads to most conservatives as exactly what it is, a censorship power play dressed up in safety language to move that agenda. The movement needed a vehicle that didn't look like it came from them. Built to deceive how the effective altruist machines infiltrated the conservative right on AI. There might be something to this. If you want to regulate what AI systems can say and do, don't send a progressive to make the case while President Trump is in power. Build a bipartisan movement. I'm going to read that later. I want to hear about that because that's a legitimate concern right now with what Trump is doing with AI. There may be nothing we can do about it. It may be that he's fulfilling prophecy. Oh man. All right. We were done anyway. Let's see what's on the timeline. Oh, good Lord. Somebody acting like a dog got attacked by a dog. This is the world we live in. Yikes. Oh my goodness. It's 28 minutes. Zuckerberg killed the metaverse after burning $80 billion on cartoons. Oops. Sam Altman took $13 billion from Microsoft and sold OpenAI's cloud to Amazon. What? Oh, dude, what is up with this? What is it? There's this spammy thing that happens where if you don't click on exactly the right spot, it goes somewhere else. What the H? Show more? Thank you. Whatever. All right. I guess we're not meant to look at that. Anywho, let's move on. I don't have a title for this. I need to get some more screens for these different types of videos. But this is an interesting video I was listening to today. Passover sacrifice this year, third temple update, Jewish prayer in the temple news. I thought what he had to share was pretty interesting considering Passover is coming up here. So continuing to learn about and investigate the Jewish perspective on these things. Here we go.
Will this be the year that Israel finally rebuilds the altar on the Temple Mount?
I think it's interesting that he limits it to altar, because that I could see them actually accomplishing. A lot of Christians are under this idea that they're going to build the temple and that they can do it in weeks. Not if they're talking about the Ezekiel temple. The Ezekiel temple that's 70 miles by 70 miles. They ain't going to build that in weeks. I got news for you. So whatever they're looking for this temple based on this fake Antichrist narrative that they're looking. That's the other thing we're going to get into. We're going to start looking more. We're going to start chasing down these people pushing this narrative about the Antichrist. I started to see a lot of these videos come up where they're saying that now they're looking for the Antichrist, especially since that rabbi came out and said that they're expecting the Messiah to be revealed as early as Passover. And that's re-triggering this whole Antichrist going into the temple, declaring himself God movement. So I guess it's time to get back into that section of Scripture to look at what the Scripture actually says about Antichrist and what it is that they're saying and how it's not actually written. And this is probably how God's going to be, one of the ways that God's going to be glorified is that, these people who don't actually study the Scripture are pushing this narrative about an Antichrist going into a temple and declaring himself God. There are so many things wrong with that story. But so I don't go down a rabbit hole, we'll go back to the video.
And brings the Korban Pesach.
What is this word?
Oh, Korban Pesach? It means Passover sacrifice. Young lambs that were slaughtered in the temple courtyard and eaten at the Passover Seder in Jerusalem, a memorial of the Exodus from Egypt, when God brought us out of slavery and he commanded us to keep the laws of the Passover forever, for the rest of time. Since the destruction of the temple, however, the meat of the Korban Pesach has been missing from our Seder tables, but maybe not for much longer. How might this happen as early as this Passover, in just a couple weeks from now?
Wait,
you might
when
be
was this
thinking,
video?
how's that even possible? What about
a couple weeks from now? Isn't Passover start tomorrow? Nissan 1? It goes from the 1st to the 9th, I think.
the Dome of the Rock? Don't you need the ashes of the red heifer? And look, we're going to get into all this and clear it all up on this special pre-Passover edition of Third Temple Update from Israel. Please subscribe so you don't miss future updates. And let me know what you think about the Passover this year down in the comments. So take a look at this post on X from activist Ayelet Lash. She says, now that we have seen that it's possible to close the Temple Mount to Arabs during Ramadan and the world did not collapse, I see no logical reason to prevent the Jews from offering the Passover sacrifice this year on the Temple Mount. There's nothing.
You know what would be interesting about that is if they do start up the sacrifices again, that would put that would be some interesting evidence that allow us to put some more puzzle pieces on the board.
Nothing more symbolic than this, to celebrate the Festival of Freedom this year, free from the mindset of being guests in our own land, and finally the homeowners. And whoever dares to rebel should be deported immediately. So we'll talk more about the Temple Mount closure in just a minute, but first I want to show you an article.
Oh, yeah, I got it right. Didn't I say April 1st through the 9th? I may have thought that in my head. What I'm thinking about is Nissan 1 is tomorrow. Yeah. So Nissan 1, which is the beginning of the year, and that was in reference to that rabbi who was saying that that could represent. Man, I'm getting confused here. Is that here? Let's look at the timeline here. Because on this timeline, I have a feature. Oops. Look, I've started making this user aware. My timeline. What do we want? We want Jewish holidays. Why are my holidays not? They're there. We are here. Nissan 1. April 1st, Pesach. That's the start of the Pilgrim Festival. Nissan 1, Passover, or Nissan 15. Passover commemorates the Exodus from Egypt, a week-long festival beginning the 15th of Nisan, marked by the Seder meal and eating matzah. Okay. So tomorrow is not Passover. For some reason, I was thinking tomorrow was Passover. Tomorrow's just Nissan 1. No festivals. So this was, do you guys remember the rabbi? Did he misspeak? He said something about Nissan 1 being when the Messiah could be revealed. I swear I watched a bunch of videos today about people saying that they think that the Antichrist is going to be revealed because that rabbi said the Messiah is going to be revealed. Losing my mind. Anyway, just for clarity, for future reference, tomorrow is just Nissan 1, and Passover is April 9th. Whoops. What is that weird line? Don't know what that is. Oh, it's a Gregorian calendar. Gregorian months. Yeah, so tomorrow is just Nissan 1. Passover doesn't start until a couple of weeks, like he said. Okay, I'm across it now. I'm on board.
Article from the Palestinian Authority news agency on March 8th. Temple extremist. I love how they put temple in quotation marks, like they refuse to acknowledge our history. Temple extremist Israeli groups escalate campaign to impose Passover sacrifice at...
If I'm not mistaken, didn't I make a big deal like a year or two ago about Nissan 1 fitting a pattern? I'm going to have to go dig up that video. I think it had to do with the 1,260 days. Like in 2024, there was a period of time between Passover and another holiday that was 1,260 days. I need to go dig that up because I think that Pastor Biltz used that same argument on his calendar for why he's pushing it out to 2037. It could just be that 1,260 days is the standard number of days between two festivals. I need to go investigate that. Let me go make a note on that. I'm going to do that tonight. Here, we can listen to this while they do that.
Al-Aqsa Mosque amid continued closures. The temple extremist Israeli groups have intensified their campaign to promote the so-called Passover sacrifice inside Al-Aqsa Mosque, exploiting its continued closure, which Israeli authorities have maintained throughout Ramadan, citing a state of emergency. The campaign aims to carry out animal sacrifices inside Al-Aqsa Mosque during the Jewish Passover, scheduled from April 1st to the 8th. They go on to talk about some images that were shared on social media by different activists, and they seem pretty upset about these pictures. The first one here is from the Temple Institute. You can see the Passover sacrifice being performed, And in the background is an altar, and behind that is not the temple, but the Dome of the Rock. And here's a different image. This one is captioned, "Building the temple in a month is a bit complicated, but building an altar and renewing the Passover sacrifice is definitely possible." And again, there's an altar next to the Dome of the Rock. So as the article mentions, we are in the middle of a war with Iran. So large gatherings are prohibited. The Temple Mount is closed. We're getting incoming missiles, warning sirens, and so on. But it is the month of Ramadan, when a large number of Muslims normally go up to the Temple Mount. And police are not allowing that this year. I think close to every Muslim nation in the world now has issued some kind of condemnation about this. There actually have been some things falling from the sky in Jerusalem. On March 16th, some missile fragments impacted in several locations on the Temple Mount itself, as you can see here. This has led to some speculation about what might happen if a larger missile from Iran actually made it past air defenses and hits somewhere on the Temple Mount. Here's a cartoon from Hamish Humer. I talked more about this on my last video. If you missed it, be sure you go check out my channel after you watch this one. So is it actually possible for Jews to bring the Passover sacrifice this year? Yes, it is possible. Right now, there is a very big obstacle, though, an obstacle that may surprise you. But it's not impossible to overcome. But before we get to that, here's the good news. Just how prepared are we? Well, we have lambs that are ready to go. There are different groups each year which carefully select lambs and sell shares in them for the Passover Seder. The lamb is to be slaughtered in the temple courtyard.
Sell
Certain
shares
fats
in them?
are burned on the altar, and blood is poured out at the base. It does not require the entire temple to be built, only the altar. And
You know what really surprises me is all Jews are aware of Passover, and this whole process of slaughtering a lamb and spilling its blood. They don't think that there's any correlation between a Messiah doing that he could be the lamb, and that his sacrifice is accomplishing something that's just like, how is it that they deny that? It's just like, that was the lesser thing. This is the greater thing. It's just so simple. It's got to be a spiritual blindness.
we know the location of where to build it, and it can be constructed in a pretty short amount of time. This is Rabbi Wolfson from Yeshivat Har Habayit showing the correct location of the altar. Again, you can see.
So this is news to me. So everything I've heard for the last several years that they've talked about rebuilding the temple, people have been using the words temple. They haven't been using rebuilding the altar. I could totally get them building an altar in a very short period of time. But rebuilding the temple as it's described in Ezekiel so that it can be called the third temple, that I have a problem with, because I don't think that's logistically possible in just a couple of weeks.
See here that the altar can be constructed in an open area without disturbing the Dome of the Rock or any other structure. But don't we need the ashes of the red heifer? No. And I know some people always tell me down in the comments that we already have the ashes of the red heifer, and I know that some people are saying that, but it's not true. I did a video on this a while ago. You can go check it out. But do we actually need to have the ashes of the red heifer in order to bring the Passover sacrifice? No, we don't. The ashes are used to purify someone from ritual impurity, from contact with the dead, so that they can enter the courtyard of the temple. So yes, ideally we should try to obtain the ashes so that we can do this. But if we don't have the ashes, we should do the sacrifice anyway. And the reason for that is that some time-bound offerings. Now, I'm not talking about voluntary offerings here, but certain time-bound offerings like the Korban Pesach or like the daily Tamid offering must be brought in their time, and that takes precedence over the issue of impurity from the dead. So what about the Seder itself? Where are we going to do it? Do we even know how to do it with the Korban Pesach? There are some large areas in the old city of Jerusalem where Jewish pilgrims could divide into groups and eat the Korban Pesach, like the Kotel and the Western Mall Plaza, for example. And there are some changes to the Seder, but nothing too difficult. I recommend getting something like this, the Haggadat HaPesach by Rabbi Avi Grossman. This will show you how to conduct the Passover Seder with a Korban Pesach. This is not a paid promotion. I don't get anything from this. But if you're interested, you can search it online. So I told you there was a big obstacle to all of this, right? So what is it? Well, if you go pick up a sheep and try to walk up to the Temple Mount, you will find out very quickly what that obstacle is. You will be stopped by the Israel police, the Israeli government. Yep. They do not permit such things by force. I know this is supposed to be the Jewish...
He didn't say that very well. They use force to prevent people from doing sacrifice on the temple.
State and Jewish religious freedom and all that kind of thing, but this is the reality. Take a look. Here's a protest that took place this past Motzei Shabbat, Saturday night, outside the Jaffa Gate in the old city of Jerusalem.
God, they look...
It's a protest for the government to allow the Passover sacrifice. You can see they're holding signs that say things like Korban Pesach and Sacrifice Now. There are also petitions going around petitioning the government to allow the Passover sacrifice. Here's a petition addressed to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir. It says, "We, the undersigned, address you with an emotional appeal and a sense of historical mission. The time has come. On the 14th of Nisan, which is April 1st, 2026, we ask you to allow the people of Israel to renew the sacrifice of the Passover lamb on the Temple Mount in accordance with the Torah of Israel in a controlled, respectful, and coordinated manner, as is expected of a Jewish state in its own land." So, is the government going to allow this? I don't know. But there's really something even more important than that. Take a look at this article by Rabbi Elisha Wolfson. Passover sacrifice in these days, is it really possible? He says, all that remains is that we all believe and truly desire to fulfill the mitzvah, to do the commandment. We will learn the details of the laws, demand that our public emissaries allow the altar to be erected and the sacrifice to be offered, and prepare ourselves to ascend to Jerusalem. And thanks to the Passover sacrifice, may we merit complete redemption in mercy. So that's really the key. We as Jews, the people of Israel, must truly believe and truly desire to fulfill this commandment. Every year, at the end of the Seder, we say, next year in Jerusalem. No, now we must say, this year in Jerusalem, and mean it. Bezrat Hashem, with
Boy,
the help
wouldn't
of God,
that be something?
May our eyes see it and our hearts rejoice. If you enjoyed this video, I think you're going to love.
Well, if they start up the sacrifice, then that gives us another piece of the puzzle for prophecy being fulfilled. Because then somebody could come along and cause the sacrifices to cease. I don't think it's going to happen, though. We'll see. All right, during that, I found a couple of videos that we want to watch. So this one is about the fireballs that you guys are talking about there.
Hey everyone, geophysicist Stefan Burns here. We just had a fireball fly in over Pennsylvania and Ohio, exploding with a loud boom heard by thousands, seen by many, many people across the United States. And well, what is a fireball? It is a meteor coming in from space that flashes brighter than the planet Venus, which is the third brightest object normally in our sky behind the sun and the moon. And so we typically don't see Venus during the day. It's under very special conditions where you can maybe make out the planet Venus during the day. If you see a meteor during the day, it is a fireball. It is a big event. Now these can be just a couple inches in diameter. They can be meters across. Of course, they could be even bigger than that. Think Chicxulub and the KT extinction back 66 million years ago, 6 kilometers across, 7 kilometers across. This exploded in the atmosphere with a sonic boom. So it's unlikely that fragments survived, but it was a pretty significant event. We can also see it here picked up on satellite imagery. So we have satellites in space in geostationary orbit that are always looking at specific parts of the globe, and the United States has a GOES East and West satellite, and this is the East satellite, and we can see lightning flashes from space, and this is the lightning flash detection imagery here. Well, if the snapshot's taken at the right time, coincidentally for fireball, we see that plasma generated in the atmosphere with our satellites. And so this showed up on our satellite imagery because it's a pretty significant event seen in Pennsylvania, really though over Ohio, as you can see here, really flying in over Cleveland, going down past Akron and more. So this was a significant event. And here we have a fantastic video of this fireball coming in. I'll link all this in the video description. Let's give this a watch. Watch the top of the screen here. We see this come in flying across this camera. And just look at how bright it is, and look at that tail that's produced.
That looks exactly like the rockets
of the atmosphere,
that
leaving a vapor trail. This
come into
is
Iran.
a pretty significant fireball.
I mean,
we
Israel.
have had some fly over recently. It seems at an elevated clip this month. So we had fireballs fly over Louisiana and the Pacific Northwest, like Washington and,
that one looked different.
Vancouver, back around the 3rd and 4th of March. We had a few fireball sightings, one notably in Europe around the Netherlands, also northern Germany back on the 8th of March. We had another fireball fly over Pennsylvania and the northeast part of the United States on the 9th of March, around that time frame. Now we have another one flying over the northeast part of the United States. And so we seem to be having more than normal. Again, a fireball specifically is a meteor that shines brighter than the planet Venus. So
that's what I expect to be the fulfillment of the stars falling from heaven. So it'd be interesting to discover what that was, because I would expect to see a lot of those when we see the sign of the Son of Man. I would expect to see a lot of fireballs. I'm thinking they're going to be satellites, especially if Jesus does come on a big spaceship. He's gonna come through and be knocking a lot of satellites into the Earth's atmosphere. I'm expecting to see a lot of fireballs. But this one, it seems as though it's just a meteor, not a rocket or anything.
It really shows up brightly at night. If it's visible during the day, it is a fireball. And they're, common, but maybe not that common. Meteors are flying all the time, but to have a fireball is pretty significant. We are getting them. Perhaps that's related to the fact that we are right now traveling through a zone in space that is connected to the passage of an interstellar object back in October, November last year. That is interstellar object 3I Atlas. Let's check out the map.
That's what you were saying.
Here we have our 3D solar system visualization tool provided by the Sky Live. So we can see the inner solar system and we can see the location of 3I Atlas, this interstellar object which flew in from beyond our solar system on a hyperbolic trajectory. As of right now, today, the 17th of March, we see it just had its close flyby of Jupiter on the 16th yesterday, but we're really concerned about, as it relates to this story and these fireballs perhaps being related to it, is its past location back in October, November around its perihelion. So let's go back in time and we'll see it here in October. And its perihelion is its closest approach to the sun. This is hit when it's hit with the most solar radiation, and there's a lot of solar storms that were launched towards 3i Atlas. This applies to any comet that flies in, for example, to the inner solar system, right? It'll have a perihelion because gravity pulls it in towards the sun. And so here we see it go by. Now, interstellar object 3i Atlas was unique because it had all these jets. It was a super active interstellar object, you know, fairly similar to a comet, but with a lot of anomalies. It had a lot of jet activity. And so any material that is dispersing that is of a large enough size will be pulled in by gravity by the sun rather than being pushed out by solar irradiation. Small particles and grains will get pushed away by the solar wind. Large enough ones will get pulled in at some rate, right? The larger it is, probably the faster it comes in via gravity. Well, we're now seeing in March some of these particles come in, because look what happens right here. We have middle of February, now going into March, we enter in to that dispersal zone. So there is certainly material that was ejected from this interstellar object, has a very low gravity, a lot of it dispersed out into space. How much of that are we encountering is the big question. And so the way to answer that question to the best ability is to make observations as to what's happening with things flying in to our Earth environment. And well, we've seen in March a notable uptick in these sort of sightings. That's what it seems. So I think there's a connection there. You can't say it definitively. I don't think that would be appropriate, but certainly it makes you think when you have the third ever detected interstellar object flying into our...
Yeah. Let's move on. We got another video here. This one is about the comet hitting the sun.
Hey everyone, geophysicist Stefan Burns here. We have a comet soon to perform an extremely close approach to the sun. This is C2026A1 MAPS, a sungrazer comet from the Kreutz sungrazer family. Its perihelion, its closest approach, will be just 0.005 astronomical units. That is less than the Earth-Moon separation distance. And this closest approach occurs on the 4th of April. So we are just a couple weeks away at this point, less than 3 weeks away. Here we see an image of comet C2026A1 MAPS taken by Michael Yeager and Gerald Raymond out of Namibia. And we see it glowing quite brightly now. It's starting to take on some color, and well, it's only brightened since. Now it is a little bit brighter than 10th magnitude. So we have some new data, and we can put this comet into comparison with other Kreutz sungrazers. Here we see the latest data for MAPS. We see some trajectories that it may follow as it gets closer and closer to the sun. This is its pre-perihelion heliocentric distance. So it's just a little bit closer to the sun right now than Earth is. We'll look at the orbit of this comet next. It's going to accelerate very rapidly in the last week as it gets close to its perihelion. So basically, once we hit April, this thing is really going to accelerate. Will get very, very close to the sun, could even impact the sun. And if it does impact the sun, perhaps it produces a significant coronal mass ejection or space weather event. That is
that reminds me. We were woken up last night. I don't know if anybody else was. Actually, I do. So I've been hearing people that had an interesting night last night. I think it's only going to get worse over the next couple of days because we're getting hit with a lot of radiation from the sun, and temperature. The climate is changing. We're going through this weird cycle right now, to where there's a lot of electromagnetic energy in the air, and there's a lot of changes in the atmosphere around us. So I don't know if anybody else had an interesting night last night. I know we did.
Possibility, maybe not the most likely, but a possibility we can't disregard until that perihelion occurs. But here we see other Kreutz sungrazers. We have C2024S1 Atlas, which was notable, but not that big of a deal in the grand scheme. We have Comet Lovejoy back in 2011 being the great comet of 2011. We have Ikea Seki Comet. This was 1965. That put on a big show, visible during daylight. Really, really awesome for those that saw that back in 65. And then we have this very big Kreutz comet that was observed in 1882. And
anyway, that's as much as we need to know about that one right now. We'll be watching that one to see what happens with it. It's very interesting that it's going around the sun on April 4th. Here's another video. This will be the last one from Stefan for the day.
Here. We've just had multiple big blasts of energy launched from the sun headed right towards Earth. And so if you think things are already pretty crazy here energetically, the dial may be about to turn to 11 and things could get even more nuts. Sorry to say, but that is looking like it's going to be the case. We just had a big coronal mass ejection launch our way and multiple plasma filaments following right behind. And so we can see that here with our view of the sun. This is Sunspot Group 4892. You'll see this big shock wave right there from a 2.7 M-class flare, the second strongest type of solar flare, only behind X-class flares. And well, you see that shock wave very clearly. That is pretty much Earth directed. The space weather models for that event are showing pretty much a surefire hit right in the center of that wave of plasma that's now inbound. That is going to impact Earth's magnetic field, the plasmasphere, and cause a geomagnetic storm. So basically big reverberations in Earth's magnetic field in the energy environment that we live within. This alters the global electric circuit, energy flow there. We have plasma coming in from the space environment and more. This is all happening around equinox. So we have this impact expected on the 19th of March from around 1200 to 1800 universal time. And well, that's right at the beginning of equinox season. And there is a known effect with equinoxes where there is a stronger injection of energy from the space environment into the Earth energy environment, specifically our magnetosphere, plasmasphere, and ionosphere. And so we have that happening. Equinox, of course, has been known about for thousands of years as a
day
very
and night are
powerful
equal
moment
in length.
Time every single year. We align our calendars to it. So it's already a pretty powerful energetic portal, you could call it. Now we have this falling up behind it. We can look at that shockwave here with our Halo CME model. Very clearly, Earth center direct inbound. That was a big coronal mass ejection from a fairly significant flare, not an X flare, but the size of a coronal mass ejection and how much it will hit and impact Earth is not directly correlated to the size of the solar flare. So there is a bit of a disconnect between them at times. This is a great example of that. You know, good sized solar flare, but not gargantuan, but pretty big coronal mass ejection as we can see. And there's more than just that. We have some plasma filaments that followed up right behind it. So we had this 2.7 M-class flare. There's another 1.3 M-class flare today. You see these plasma filaments right there. There's the first one. We see that launch off. That's going Earth center and direct. They're still modeling it at this moment in time, but that looks pretty much like it's going to be impacting us. It's falling up behind that coronal mass ejection, not going to be as fast. So it will basically add into this train of plasma that's going to be coming into station. And you'll notice also a plasma filament that is connecting this sunspot with this filament there, and that launches at the same time. Check that out right there. Do you see that? Slightly below the solar equator, but it's pointed to the north. And so we have these two filaments now following in behind. Check that out again right here. You'll see it's very quick, but you'll see that plasma filament launch. Right there it is, right? See that? Okay, so now we have three different things coming in from our sun in just the past 24 hours. The initial forecast from NASA and from NOAA on this is a G2 geomagnetic storm with isolated periods of G3 storming. So a moderate geostorm, the scale rating goes from 1 to 5. This is a 2 with maybe periods of G3 storming. Well, because we're in this equinox portal, you could call it, and because of these plasma filaments, which they haven't taken into account yet, I think we're going to see a G3 storm, potentially even periods of G4 storming. That is certainly possible. We see this space weather model by NASA looking top down. We see the sun right there. There's the Earth. We do see some of the other planets as well. We're really just concerned about the Earth there. We see it coming right towards the planet, and we have our vertical view. So this is south, this is north, and we see it also aligned nicely with the ecliptic plane and therefore with the Earth as well. So looks like we have a surefire hit coming in from that coronal mass ejection, and those plasma filaments are going to be stacking on top of that. If you go here to our 211 angstrom view of the sun with our 193 filter on top, we see also this coronal hole following up behind. And so this has decayed a little bit, it looks like, since its last rotation about 28 days ago.
That's probably good enough. I mean, like, we know that there's CMEs coming in to be aware of them. I don't know if you guys feel them when they hit the Earth. We definitely do. My wife more so than me, but we definitely do take note of them. It's interesting if you mark on a calendar the days that weird things happen to you, and then look at space weather. A lot of times they line up. It's very interesting. Anywho, that's all I have for today. Do you guys have anything else you want to talk about before we go? We didn't really get into the scripture all that much. I think we're all up to date on our timeline. Let's see, what have I done with timeline? Turn off all this stuff. Turn off the, oops. Turn off those guys. Oh, I did move this ahead. So this is a new version of the timeline to where this puts seal number 5 potentially on August 12th. If we're not in seal number 5, that would be the next candidate. And then that would put seal number 6 at February 6, 2027. And then that would put seal number 7 all the way over here at January 26, 2028, which is interesting because the 1,260 days, if you count from January 20th, 2025, would land you right here, because this is July 22nd, 2028, 1,260 days from January 20th, 2025, when President Trump took office and Elon Musk started working with him. That would put it right before this eclipse. So you could argue that that could be right before trumpet number 7, which is where they die, where the 2 witnesses die and lay in the street for 3.5 days. So that is an interesting pattern. So I may have gotten the first one off by 6 months. Let me show you the previous version. I added this version. Adjusted chiastic, restore. So that one had them. No, that's the adjusted one. Oops. Chiastic. There you go. There you go. This is the one that we're on right now. So this is, I thought this was the opening of seal number 5, but really nothing happened on that day. February 17th, relatively uneventful. Granted, there has been very interesting events since then. So it's possible that we changed from seal number 4 into seal number 5, but it's leaning, if something happens, I tell you what, if something happens on this day, if something happens over here, August 12th, 2026, and it's not the magnetic pole shift, if it is the magnetic pole shift, we'll know that's seal number 6. If it's not the magnetic pole shift, but if something else takes place on that day, we'll know for sure that that is the opening of seal number 5. And maybe that might be the start of the Great Tribulation. So the way it could work is with what's going on with the Iran war, maybe it continues to drag on until August, and then maybe they dial it down, and then they say, let there be peace and safety, and then somebody's got a nuclear bomb, sudden destruction. So that would bring some fulfillment to prophecy, and that would be a pretty surefire seal event. That would be a very strong indication that, oh, okay, that is the opening of a seal. So that would be seal number 5. Then that would inform us that we could look for seal number 6 on February 6th, and then seal number 7 on January 26, 2028. And then we would know roughly the time about the 2 witnesses. So yeah, some exciting things ahead. This is, I added user accounts to this. So now I also added a little timeline gallery here so that you can, when you can make your timelines public, so you can view these. I've added a ton of features to this. I keep adding features because it's AI that does all the work. I just tell it, okay, what feature should we add next? And it just does it. I added this really cool feature. So if I want to compare it to another, oh, you can't see it on this monitor. It's too far down. Well, that's a bummer. It works really good on the bigger monitors, but I made it so that you can stack 2 timelines, one on top of the other, and you can compare them. It's just that the monitor that I use for our show here is it's about the size of an iPad, so oh well, I guess you don't get to see the compare feature. The compare feature is pretty cool. But we'll be I'll be releasing this, so I'll work on a website this weekend. We'll release the website, and then we'll tie in these tools into it so that you can, maybe we'll make it part of like a membership or something like that. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Maybe we'll start with no membership, and if it gets a ton of use, maybe we'll put it behind a membership type of thing. I like to start free. I don't need the money. So unless you guys want to do something else with the show, like if we had a vision for the show and we wanted to do something more like a studio production, that would be worth doing. But I don't know. I kind of like the show as it is. So we'll see. Anyway, you guys have anything else you want to talk about before we go? So where do we find the timeline chart? Yeah, I'll be publishing that soon. Yeah, so the timelines, and then as people come up with timelines, I've designed this thing to where it's almost drag and drop. I can almost drag a YouTube video. In fact, that might be the next feature I add. You know what? I'm going to do that. Right now, there's one more step, but I'll make it so that you can drag a YouTube video onto this thing, and it will extract the timeline from the video. It's getting crazy. AI is nuts. It would have taken me 6 months to build this thing if I had hand-coded it myself. If I wrote this thing from scratch, it would have either taken me 2 very long weeks of working nonstop to build these features, or 6 months if I did it in my spare time. And I've been able to put this thing together in just little bits and pieces of spare time here and there. I've got maybe a couple hours into this thing, and it's really amazing. It's better than time.graphics, to be honest. Normally, I would use time.graphics for these timelines, but now they charge money. I don't want to pay money. I want my stuff to be free so I can use it unrestricted. Anyway, I'll make these tools available by next week. We'll have a website up, and you'll have access to these tools. We'll start off free and see how it goes, but no promises that it'll stay free forever. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me. If you like this kind of content, hit that like button. It really, well, I don't even know if it still helps the videos. They've been changing the algorithms. Have you guys heard about this? Because of the influx of AI, they've started changing the way the algorithm works. So I honestly don't know if the thumbs up works to affect the algorithm, but it helps me know if you like the video. So if you do like this kind of content, I can see the thumbs up. So hit that thumbs up if you like it. And then come back and visit us here. We're 4:30 Monday through Friday, Pacific time, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. In the meantime, keep looking up. God bless you guys. Shalom, shalom.